date and period on this paper. I'm modeling this for you. Okay. The lesson comes from section 11.5, and there are two main objectives, two main concepts. The first concept, if you read along with me, is, well, the main idea of this lesson is the angles of a triangle. The first objective is to be able to solve problems involving the sum of the interior angles. It says it right there. The sum of the interior angles of a triangle. Pay attention. So, the essential question, and whenever you see an essential question, that always means that's the concept that you need to know. The concept that you need to know is, well, in the question form is, what is the sum of the interior angles of a triangle? What is the sum of the interior angles of a triangle? That means the inside angles, what do they add up to be? And the answer is right there. What is it? 180. So that's the concept. The way we use the concept, just first of all memorize that the sum of the interior means inside. The sum of the interior angles of a triangle is just 180. So when you work the problems that you're going to see today in the assignment, what I suggest you do is label the triangle. In this case, the triangle is already labeled. Step 2, create an equation. When I say create the equation, you know that if the sum of the interior angles is 180, that means that the interior angles add up to be 180. How would that look as an equation? Well, this angle right here is x. And if you take the sum of the other angles, that's a 100-degree angle, so it's plus 100. Plus this third angle, which is 50. What is the sum of all three interior angles? That means you've got to set it equal to 180. So you create the equation. Step 3, solve. Now you kids are 10 times better at solving than I am, so if we just take 100 plus 50, drop down the x, we get x plus 150 equals 180. And then, of course, you're going to subtract 150 from this side, subtract 150 from this side, and that gives you x. And what is the value of x? And that means that this is a 30-degree angle, and you're done. Normally, when you solve for x, that becomes an input value. So copy that down. Let's review. The sum of the interior angles of a triangle is always 180 degrees. From that, we make our equation. Solve. Interior angles are the angles inside the triangle. Now, the opposite of that would be the exterior angles. Could you imagine extending this side and extending this side and extending this side? Could you imagine doing that? That way you create exterior angles. An exterior angle is created by just extending a side beyond the triangle. So if you look at objective number 2, it says I can solve problems involving the sum of the exterior angles of a triangle. The main concept here is posed in the essential question, what is the sum of the exterior angles? The sum of the exterior angles of a triangle. Well, the sum of the exterior angles of a triangle is what? 360. Based on that, we look at the diagram. And I created the exterior angles for you by extending this side, I extended that side, and I extended this side. So we have 3 exterior angles. And like I said before, maybe if you could label the angles. So step 1, label. Mark the diagram. For example, it says right here, the measure of angle SPT is 11x minus 20. Well, that means you have to find angle SPT. And if you don't know where angle SPT is, start at S, go to P, and then go to T. So SPT is this angle right here. That is angle SPT. And we're going to label that angle. And that angle SPT happens to be 11x minus 20. I just marked my diagram. At this point, we're going to label the next angle HTC as 8x plus 5. It's right there. If you don't know where HTC is, start at H, go to T, and then go to C. That's this angle. And it's just going to be 8x plus 5. And you know those are degrees because it says degrees. Okay. And then it doesn't give me anything about this third exterior angle right here. It says nothing about that third exterior angle. And obviously, we're talking about the exterior angles, but we don't give this one. So they're kind of being mean and nasty about that. So your job is to say, hey, Cohen, it doesn't matter if they give us this angle because they gave us this interior angle. And together, what do those two angles create? And you would think to yourself, oh, those two angles together are a linear pair. And you know if it's a linear pair, they add up, they're supplementary, they add up to be 180. So can you possibly find this angle right here? Knowing that that's 52 degrees, but those two angles together add up to be 180. So how in the world can you possibly find this angle here? And somebody just got it right. So if you said 180 minus 52, which is going to give you what? 128 degrees. Thank you. So guess what? You now have all three exterior angles. Then you go back to the concept. The concept is the sum of the exterior angles is always 360. So you've got to be able to create an equation. So if you know that the sum of the three exterior angles is 360, let's start with this first exterior angle, which happens to be 11x minus 20. If we add that to the next exterior angle, which is 8x plus 5, we'll say plus 8x plus 5. And we add it to the third exterior angle, which we just found to be 128. What do all three of those angles add up to be? Okay, it's either 180 or 360, but which one is it? Yeah, it's 360 because we're dealing with exterior angles. Thank you. That is the equation you create. So, if you can write the equation and solve it, you're very powerful, you know. Let's just solve that and add up the x terms. There's 11x's here and 8x's here, so altogether that makes what? 19x's. Now when you add the constant terms, here's a constant term. There's a constant term, and there's a constant term. That's like saying negative 20 plus 5 plus 128. You can grab your calculator. No, don't touch the door. You grab the calculator. And you start with the negative 20. So you go 20, negative. You put the plus minus. That's a plus 5, so you go plus 5. And that's a plus 128, so you go plus 128. And that gives you 113. It's still set equal to 360. And you kids are better at solving than most of us teachers, so you minus 113 from both sides. So that's 19x equals 360 minus 113, which is 247. Then you divide both sides by, so x ends up being, thank you for that, 13. Now, this is very important because this becomes what we call an input value. That is an input value. At this point, we just found x, so we found out that x is 13. We go right back over here and we say, okay, x is what? Now we have to answer the rest of the questions. It says, find the measure of angle SPT. That was part A. Part B, the measure of angle SPT equals. If you don't know where SPT is, it says it in two places. SPT is 11x minus 20. So if you put down 11x minus 20, this is how you use the input value. You plug it in right there. So you make the substitution. 11 times 13 minus 20. Calculator work, all calculator work. 11 times 13 minus 20, what did you say it was? That's exactly right. In other words, you go back to the diagram, and SPT is, what is it? That's a 123 degree angle. And I just marked it on my diagram. And finally, it says the measure of angle HTC. Well, HTC is right here. If you don't know where it is, start with H, go to T, and then go to C. And remember, for part C, the measure of angle HTC happens to equal 8x plus 5. Once again, you got an input value, plug it in right there. Substitute the x with 13, so you get 8 times 13 plus 5. Calculator work. 8 times 13 plus 5 equals, that means this angle is 109 degrees. That's done. A lot of substitution. I think the tricky part was knowing that if this is 52, then to get this angle, you got to subtract 52 from 180. So I'm going to set you with a task right now. And if you take out that second paper, I want you to go to the side that says practice, which is right here. And I want you to try problems 1, 2, 3, and 4. Take some time and do that. Label, make your equation. I'm going to pause this video, and then I'm going to come back. So, if you follow the steps that I kind of outlined, and they say find the value of x, let's label the diagram first. Now, there's not a whole lot of space here, so you got to kind of write real small or write this on your own paper. But it says the measure of angle M is 5x. Well, here's M. I label it 5x. The measure of angle X is 15x minus 10. Okay, I labeled that. Now the measure of angle B is 5x minus 10. So that's right there. I just put a little arrow since I couldn't fit it in there. Now, if you are trying to figure out the value of x, you have to determine, are we dealing with interior angles or exterior angles? Makes a huge difference. What? Interior. So what do you know about the sum of the interior? Like if they're the interior angles, what do we know about the sum of the interior angles of a triangle? It's 180. So therefore, that's what drives your equation. In other words, I mean, you don't have to write all this, but it's like saying the measure of angle M plus the measure of angle X plus the measure of angle B, they all add up to be 180. Now I'm going to zoom in on that. Because we said the measure of angle M was 5x. So if you take that angle right here, plus angle X, which is 15x minus 10, plus the measure of angle B, which is 5x minus 10, and that's the sum of all three angles. What is that supposed to equal? And you already told me. Right there. It's 180. There you go. Because the sum of the interior angles of a triangle is 180. And there you go. So just add. That's 5 and 15 and 5. What does that make? And if you're not sure, don't be too proud to use a calculator. 5 plus 15 plus 5 is 25. That's 25x. Now, when you add the constant terms, those are the terms that you're adding, and you're not sure about that, just only involve yourself with the sign in front of the term. Like the sign in front of 10 is negative, and the sign in front of that term is negative. So what that means on the calculator is you're taking a 10 and make it negative, plus another 10, which is negative, and you press equals. That's negative 20. So on the paper, for the purpose of the equation, you put 25x minus 20, and that equals what? 180. And you kids know better than I do. You add 20 here, add your 20 there. So 25x equals, that's right, 200. Divide by 25. Divide by 25, and what does that give you? Yep. And that happens to be an input value. So I'm just gonna put that answer right here. X equals 8. Beautiful. And because X is an input value, they go ahead and they say, what's the measure of angle M? Well, it says right here, the measure of angle M is 5x. So if the measure of angle M equals 5x, that's an input value. That means substitute. Instead of 5 times x, we put 5 times 8. And what does that give us for a final answer? 40. And that's 40 degrees. That means that this angle right here is 40 degrees. Hello. Now they're asking for the measure of angle x. First of all, the measure of angle x, it's right there, 15x minus 10. So I could write 15x minus 10. It's just waiting for a number to substitute into that x. So instead of 15 times x, we already know that x is 8 from right there. How about 15 times 8 minus 10? Don't show the arithmetic. Grab the calculator. Just go.
110.
Okay, 15 times 8 minus 10. And guess what the final answer for that is? 110. That means that's a 110 degree angle. Second of all, the measure of angle B. I think you're getting the idea. They're telling you the measure of angle B is 5x minus 10. So the measure of angle B equals 5x minus 10. Again, plug in value. And it's going to be 30. What that's saying is the measure of angle B is 30. It just means that that's a 30 degree angle. all based on the concept that the sum of the interior angles of a triangle is 180. Now, the last thing I'm going to say before I completely release you, once again, if you take a triangle and you extend the sides, like say you extend this side, and you extend that side, and you extend that side, you've created exterior angles. So the next one I want to take a look at is number 7 through 10. There we go. I don't want to waste too much time, so I'll kind of walk this with you together. Label it. You could read that, but it's saying the measure of angle FTH is this. Well, first of all, most kids, a lot of kids have, and adults, they have trouble finding the angle. FTH. Well, first of all, if you don't know where that is, start with F. I'm going to start by putting on my glasses. So, F is here, T is here, H is there. So, that's the angle in question, FTH. So it says FTH is a 12x plus 25. There we go. 12x plus 25. Okay, I labeled that. Then it goes ahead and tells you that the measure of angle YFK is 95. Can you find angle YFK in the first place? Hopefully. You start at Y, you go to F, and then you go to K. So that is right there, 95 degrees. That's another exterior angle. And finally, it says the measure of angle FKT is 24. Well, if you start at F, go to K, and shoot on over to T, that angle right there, that's 24 degrees. Now, they want you to find X, and there's so many ways of doing this. I would never say there's only one way. But since they gave me this exterior angle and that exterior angle, and they gave me this interior angle, I'm going to go with this exterior angle. And what I'm seeing is that I've got a linear pair. And I know that's 24. So to find this angle, if I could just take 180 degrees and minus the 24 degree angle that's interior, what's that going to give me? That's a 156 degree exterior angle. Thank you for that. And since I have all exterior angles, then I have to create an equation. So what do the exterior angles of a triangle add up to be? You have two choices. 360. That means if you want to create your equation, we could take this exterior angle, which is 12x plus 25, plus that exterior angle, which is 95, plus that exterior angle, which is 156. That's all three angles. And what is it supposed to add up to be? 360. According to the exterior angle sum theorem. At this point, there's only one x term, so I drop it down. But with the calculator, I could add 25 plus 95 plus 156. That's going to be a big old number. What is it? Thank you. Equals 360. So, again, you kids are better than... You're as good as I am at doing this, so... What's that going to give you? Some is 84. Then we could divide by 12. Divide by 12. We get our value for x. And x equals 7. That becomes an actual what? Plug-in value, input value. Thank you. Which you may or may not need. But the first thing they're asking you for is the measure of angle KTF. You got to find KTF. So I go back to the diagram, and if you don't know where KTF is, start at K, which is here. Go to T, and go to F. This is the angle in question. Right there. They want to know this angle right here. There are several ways of working this out. There's not just one way. But the first way that my brain saw to do this is to find this exterior angle. And if this exterior, that's just one thing I'm thinking about. If this exterior angle is 12x plus 25, and at the same time, if I have a plug-in value of 7, I could probably say 12 times 7 plus 25. And that would give me, what is it, 109. That's a 109 degree angle. So I could take, what did you say? So 180 minus 109. What's that going to give me? What is it? Thank you. That's a 71 degree angle. I have that answer. We just found the first answer. There are other ways of doing it. So if you got the same answer a different way, don't feel bad or don't second guess yourself. What is the measure of angle PKT? Well, can we even find PKT? Well, you start at P, you go to K, and then you go to T. What is, PKT, it's this angle right here. We already found it. What's the answer? And finally, what is the measure of angle KFT? Well, from K to F, F to T. So, what? That's a K.
You said K of T.
So from K to F and F to T, they're looking for this angle. KFT, right there, the measure of angle KFT.
Mine say Y of K.
Okay, shh. Now, so we start by finding the angle in the first place. We're looking for this angle. You got two choices. One choice, the first thing my brain saw was that's a linear pair. So if that's 95, how can you possibly find the angle in question? Subtract 95 from 180. So that is 85. That's one way. You could have added these two up and subtracted from 180, but if you add those, you'll still get 95. So that's the final answer, which was... And let me explain to you about what your assignment is. I'm giving you two problems. Y'all ready for this? Flip your paper over to the homework side. I'm going to ask you to kindly please, and if you could do this, this is leveled work. This comes from your workbook. This is what the state gives you. I want you to do, on the homework side, I want you to do problems 5 through 10. All. Shh. Again, please. I'm recording this. Do you mind? 5 through 10 all. So get started. You have enough time to, that's a very short one. And this is like the cousin of what we just did. It's like the identical twin. So good luck with that. When you're done, show me. And good luck. I think you'll do really well.